Hey everybody, welcome to wasmCloud Wednesday for Wednesday, December 18th. We kind of had a nice open, easy agenda today. Things have been a little quieter getting to the end of the year on the development front. I have a quick demo planned where I'll talk through kind of a sample application that I was building over the past week that kind of just have in my repo, but plan on bringing over to the wasmCloud side because it's pretty sweet if I do say so myself. And then from then on, I think let's do probably one last check-in on the Q4 roadmap. We had some movement there, which was awesome over the last week. And then we can go ahead and hit on it, but I'll mention it later that for next week's community meeting, Wednesday, December 25th is Christmas Day. So I figured, we all kind of figured that we can do a Wasm Cloud Wednesday on Christmas very quickly, come in and say hi. But I think I would rather for the holiday not set the precedent that we have to do it on the Wednesday. So we'll keep our weekly community meeting streak going. We're just going to do it on the 26th instead. So if anyone is violently opposed, um, that sucks. No, let me know. But I didn't think anybody would be opposed to not doing it on the holiday day. So I'll bring it up later just to make sure that we have that, mentioned so that nobody joins in on Christmas and we're not there. But that's it. Okay, so I thought what would be fun is to show off. I've been working on a little bit of well, that's a great talk, but not relevant right now. Um, I've been working on a little bit of a banking application. And what I mean by this is, a microservice written in Go for Wasm Cloud that, has a little UI in front of it and kind of keep track of transactions over time. So I've been working on that, and I have this kind of distilled into one of my repositories for a banking demo. But why don't I go ahead and show you how it works first? So just coming into this repo, we can run wash dev. This is going to build my component, which you can see a couple pieces over here is written in Go. So it's going to build the Go component and kind of introspect it for its capabilities and see, hey, this component uses an HTTP server, an HTTP client, and a key value store. So it deploys that application with all of its capabilities, and says, hey, you can access it here. So why don't we take a look at this banking application? I'm going to do one thing really quick and just X out of this. Let me see if I can clear my cookies for this makes it more fun. What I can actually do is I can click sign in. And this redirects me using an OAuth flow over to GitHub that says, hey, sign in, authorize this GitHub app, all that stuff. So I've done that before, but I just wanted to, kind of do the sign in flow again. And I am confirming my GitHub thing on mobile as we speak. Once I get signed in, this is actually going to we're going to finish the sign in and redirect me back to my Wasm Cloud application. You can see my little GitHub profile up here, your account Brooks. It's actually gone and using the OAuth token that we got back from the GitHub app, figured out a little information about me, my first and last name, my profile picture, the public stuff on GitHub. So great. I've logged in. If I refresh the page, I actually stay logged in. We'll talk about how. And here, I essentially have no transactions in my account so far. So great. What I have right now, and there are some cooler things to do in the future, right? Is just a little script that inputs a transaction. So I'll put in my username and then call this new transaction script. And I'll say, I get $250 for my initial deposit into the account, and then say something like -50, I sent a Venmo for groceries to my roommate or whatever. And then we'll do one more transaction. Let's say we're all keeping it fair here in this rent society. My roommate sends me back a Venmo for electricity, right? So we have a couple transactions that we put into this account. This is actually is actually all getting stored in the Nats key value bucket. So this is kind of deployed automatically when you start a wash dev instance with something that needs key value. But you can see in here all of my transactions in the database. And how it's reflected on the UI is actually this really nice, kind of curvy graph, right? Here's my account balance over time. We started with 250, went down $50, and then up 25, and you can kind of see the change from there. It's kind of all being visualized. We have money in, money out. Great. So it's a little banking app. Now, all of this is actually being served by one component. This one component has a couple of different really neat features. The first one being, and hold on a second, I don't want to show you a secret because I'm not doing everything the best that I could be here. This one component is actually embedding the static assets for a UI and using this really cool HTTP router library. I'm actually able to handle a couple of routes for OAuth flows for logging in, a couple of routes for managing IDs and transactions, and then anything that comes back as a request at slash or for assets, we're going to return like the static UI assets. So this one component includes the user interface, which is just served through the HTTP server or the HTTP router package, which is just like a Go package that we found upstream. It is handling information about accounts. So I have my structs that detail what an account and a transaction is. This is your like business logic or your business specific or your what would Yortis call this? Your domain specific logic, Yortis. Come on, the one time. But the thing that relates to like the business domain that you're actually writing. And this is a little banking app. So I can handle like creating a new account. And I can also handle OAuth flows. And this was something that I demoed in a previous community meeting that I did for a KubeCon talk. But just using like the OAuth 2 and the OAuth 2 GitHub libraries, we can actually write little HTTP handlers in this component that and I found like this example online basically to create an OAuth config and then handle the login, which redirects to the GitHub app, and then the callback, which is comes back with the code and state from GitHub, and then from here we can actually send back what we actually do here, which is neat, is when we get that callback, we get the user info from GitHub with the GitHub token. This is all a nice secure request. And then we can create a cookie using that user info. And that is how on the web page, if you keep refreshing, you stay logged in because we've actually sent that cookie back to the front end. So we're doing a couple really interesting things here on the back end. On the front end, this is just a React app. So I'm trying to think of the most useful thing to show here, maybe the dashboard or maybe the transactions card. So every time we essentially have a logged in user, we can use this nice React functional component stuff to get the transactions from the back end. So my front end, which is being served as a static asset from this component, is actually sending a request back to the component to handle like getting the transactions out of the API. So, I think there are many different ways to do kind of a front end, back end WebAssembly thing. As you know, with the Leptos integration that we talked about in Rust, that is a really awesome way of kind of separating out the front end and the back end. And when I was developing this app, I actually did it with a combination of using npm run start or npm dev to run like the React hot reload loop and wash dev to kind of do the hot reload loop on the back end. So this was something that it will be, yet another thing to add to our reference app repertoire. But it was just really cool to put all these pieces together of authentication, which can integrate with wasmCloud secrets, a front end, which can be developed separately and then just kind of bundled into the application. and then a Go app, which is using like this upstream HTTP router and the Golang OAuth library, and just compiling that into a component, running it in wasmCloud, and having it all work. For the curious, I think the only other thing that I didn't share, which is really important when you think about bundling in the UI assets, this final WebAssembly component ends up around 4.1 megabytes. Didn't try too hard to optimize the JavaScript side of this. Like I think I always forget the right way to do this. Oh, I'm also in banking. If you take a look at the actual like assets that come out of this, like by far the biggest one is this like index.js, right? Which is a couple hundred kilobytes. So maybe some optimization to do here, but even then, it's really not a huge component, even with the UI bundled inside of it, which is cool. So I had a really great time actually building something on wasmCloud. I think there are certainly some times that, I stubbed my toe on like one particular piece of the developer experience. So getting a couple, getting a couple issues opened in the wasmCloud side to kind of smooth that out because it's fun to just go through that process. Do folks have any questions on the banking demo, like kind of how this is put together, or um, want to dive in particularly on any piece of the actual component?
Hey, one question, more from the operational point of view. So what happens if I distribute the component among several Wasm Cloud hosts? So would I have a similar user experience? So this, if I connect to one instance and then with the next refresh connecting to another one?
Yeah, yeah. So the way that it's actually probably one more thing that I need to do in terms of like the authentication or the authorization to like make a request for the transactions, which is like, continuing to pass that OAuth or like that token with the request. But the way it is now, you would have the same experience, whether you let's say you go to like the load balancer, the website where this is hosted, then you may send a request for, index.html, index.js, and, can I log in? And that might be handled by three different components. But the cool thing is that all of those are just like served on the individual request, and it doesn't actually matter. Um, Now, it would be that is probably specific to the way that it's designed. If there was a concept of like a session, then you would need to be a little more careful about which one you're connecting to. Especially, I don't know if you saw, but I refreshed to get the new transactions right. It wasn't something that was like a WebSocket pushed up to me. Um, but no, right now it would be the same experience whether you keep hitting the same component or you hit different ones.
Cool. Many thanks.
Yeah, Tyler, you had a question, how I authorize the request to get the transaction history for the right user. I don't know if you're able to talk, but I can just speak to that. But yeah.
I can, yeah. So if you have your service mesh set up and you have multiple services fulfilling it, you can either bundle it all together in your message and pass that context along, or you can know the actions that are going to be done downstream and pre-authorize those actions up front in your component. But I didn't see that step. Maybe I missed it. I was curious how you're using wasmCloud and passing the user context along, including the authorization for the next component to assert that they're like, one, that they have the permission to do that, and two, that they've authorized the application, right? Like, how do you do the scope checks, or is that just all up front on your edge facing component?
Yeah, so the like initial authorization, which is like, does the OAuth handshake, and then you get back that token that you can use to request like user information. All of that is kind of done up front, and we don't need to like reauth that. Um, I will show a pretty important to do, which may answer your question in my code, which is that the actual endpoints for handling account things, should be uh, you saw me run the script in the CLI where I just provided kind of my account name or like my account login, basically. That's kind of the level of authorization that this example has right now.
So
But
my takeaway from that example is that your plan is to do that authentication check and authorizations in the very first component and trust that then all your downstream internal ones, or rather invert the trust, the downstream internal ones assert that whoever received a request first verified this user and the scopes allowed for it.
yeah, I think
Okay.
what we would want to do if we were being really, we wanted to be rigorous in this example, which I think would be a good idea, is to keep around that OAuth token as a cookie. It's essentially stored like same site on the client side, and we send that token along with each request to the backend, and we can do that like verification that that user is the right user and has the proper, um, proper grants to store a new transaction or what have you. That token or kind of sent along like a bearer token would be how I would do it for like this specific example.
Okay, so you pass the user context along with your message. Is that the maybe this is out of scope for your question, but with the wasmCloud service mesh, is that supposed to be a declared like capability of the services downstream? They have to support authentication. They have to say that they can accept authentication, or is that something we just need to know when I'm writing out my spec file, my YAML, and I know these do this and these do not, and I need to track that?
Yeah, so like individual components talking to each other over, a set of interfaces. And once that's kind of allowed from the operator perspective, there's not any like there's not anything in the Wasm Cloud framework that would do that like or that authorization check at each like function call. Um, I think that here, once the request gets to the key value store, the Nats key value store doesn't have anything built into it that says, you need to make sure that you're authenticated. Once the request makes it there, it's doing the thing in the key value store. So I think in this case, it's just the responsibility of my component receiving a request to modify like an account's transactions or create a new user to to do that to make sure that the request is authenticated, whether that's coming with a token or having a previous context that's stored in a secret store or in the key value store. It's a little dicey because if there was a concept of a session here, then we would do the authentication and then keep that alive essentially for the duration of the session. But each HTTP request is handled by a totally new component. So there is no like idea of a session. Hopefully I'm not
Okay, thank you.
just talking around your question, but does that kind of get at what you're asking?
I think so. I was just trying to understand more of what direction or idea wasmCloud had for authentication of various levels of the stack. Either re-authenticate each or pass context along, or do it all up front and just know your declared order.
Yeah, and I mean, do we definitely have some ideas at like the Nats core, or sorry, the Wasm Cloud core level. For this example, just working within what we have today. That's the direction. Taylor, I see you raise your hand, and Masood, jump in if it's on kind of this topic,
I just wanted to kind of suggest again, because we're talking about OAuth and grants and scopes and those, right? So I think this fits again, not that wasmCloud necessarily would have something out of the box, but it fits that model of composition that you have a component that depending on what scheme you use in order to maintain that authentication, then can examine various, let's say, client components, air quoting, when they want to perform an operation that requires authorization, they can delegate to that to check, let's say, their scope, and if they're allowed, then they can proceed or block that to happen. Because again, as Brooks was saying, that we're talking about like a architecture here or a model here that is event driven and stateless. So we have to kind of figure out what would be the best way for the use case to how to maintain information about things that need to be remembered again, if I air quote.
Brooke's staring at me for the question there. Yeah, no, I think what Masood said is getting into the answer as well, Tyler, is that there's what Brooks is showing is what is possible now, which is what he was mentioning, but also like because you can just bring your own custom interfaces, you could set this up in many different ways. I think we'll see patterns emerge and we'll help to try to make sure those patterns are well supported as we do it, because answering like Masood's question, like that's why I've always in my mind I've considered like plain components, stateless components, and then things that are like providers or things that might not be providers, but even just other components that like those are, or that could be long running in the future. They don't now. Those are stateful components. And so that's, it's the, like where we store the state is a question there as well. I mean, there's a bunch of other layers that this can happen at. We've talked over things like using Spiffy and whatnot, which can happen like for each individual component having an identity. So there's some things we can go into down the future here. I think Brooks is just trying to show like, hey, here's some OAuth stuff. And then I think as people continue to write these things and saying, hey, I need to check this along every point in the stack, I think we'll come up with patterns that make that easier to do and have community supported things that can do that. So that's kind of where I think the future would lie. But we're just trying to, like Brooks, I think was showing off, which I appreciate, just like something that was like a real thing you'd build just in smaller form so that you could see like a full end-to-end flow.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both for the questions. All right. Well, happy to talk more about that example. As mentioned, I'll get that pushed up eventually TM to the wasmCloud repository just to kind of have it all built in. I want to make sure that you can just kind of navigate to the example, run a wash dev, and then that, you know, does all the npm install and type workflows too. But hopefully it serves as a good example for like how to do OAuth, how to do kind of a HTTP router, and how to do you know, how to embed a static front end into your app if you just wanted to kind of mess around and add a little bit of flavor to like all these little back-end services. All right. Well, I think then from there, the rest of the community meeting, I want to do a quick touch base on the Q4 roadmap because I think that some of these things will roll over into 2025, and that's all good. Everything that is here is either everything on the roadmap now has been started and either has a PR or is in progress, which is great. I think that wash control commands, not needing a host ID, and using human time instead of milliseconds are both PRs that are open. I've touched base with the original contributor and they're like forming it up and making sure it's ready for review. So those are still going forward really well. Reflecting unhealthy providers and application status. There actually is a PR that came across for this. Well, at least I reviewed it yesterday. And so with one change, that'll be wrapped up, which is awesome. Masood has opened up a PR for the Nats object store implementation, which I still haven't gotten to. So I will review that today. I'm sorry, Masood. Thank you for your patience. And same thing for clap autocomplete for control interface and app commands. So all of those things are essentially at least have an open draft PR contributing the feature, which is great. HTTP server capability provider documentation. Not sure why that issue isn't closed out, but it's marked here as completed. So trust there on, oh, hey, Eric, you're here. Is this finished or is it not yet?
No, I think it marked it stale, and that's why it's under completed. And I unmarked it stale, but yeah, it seems to be confused. So I'm working on that one, but it is not completed.
Word. Okay. Back to in progress with you. Then thank you. Good to know. So if stale marks it as completed, well, now we know for the future. Good job, GitHub. Other than that, there are a couple things. There was something that came across here that I don't remember. Oh, producing a benchmark suite. We kind of have a reproducible benchmark suite now. There's still integration to be done into our CI, but something that we can update and publish regularly. Looks really nice. I believe multi-tenancy in wasmCloud is actually something that we closed this got stale closed, which is okay. This is what happens sometimes when we plan features and we didn't quite need it for this quarter. That's fine. I think we got a lot of great ideas out of it. And the only other one that I don't see here, which may actually still be on Q3, is Aditya actually came in and let me know that he wrapped up the WASI key value watch implementation either yesterday or a little bit earlier, which is awesome. So needs a review there, which is, obviously on the maintainer side. But this one is getting wrapped up. Wash Dev V2. We should check in on this one because there's quite a lot that has come across in Wash Dev, especially or including the registry bit here. So we should check in on this one just to not let it get too far out of date, but I'm fairly sure we can close this one out. I did ask.
I think we break them out. I think we just need to talk to Victor and break out the remaining things and their own issues because, like you said, like this is out there. Hopefully people are enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. There's some more, I think, documentation, other things we want to keep adding into it, but it is there.
Yep. Yeah. Well, why don't we get this next release of Wash out, which will include some of those features for Wash Dev, like overriding wildcard interfaces. So you can just say, hey, my key value store, any key value imports, I want to push it towards Redis instead of Nats or something. That's something that's really nice from the wasmCloud.toml to be able to do. Lachlan.
I don't know if you called it out. There's a feature that is pretty close to being done. The autocomplete on that one there. So one of the community members started building this and got it a fair way forward, but basically just said life happens, life came up, so is not able to get it across the line. I don't know how much is left on this one, but it's probably worth just bringing it up and pointing out if anyone has some capacity and wants to help get this one across the line. That'd be great. I think it's pretty close already. It's already most of the way there. So this is a nice little feature that we can start to follow some patterns for other things that could be auto-completed from NATS-based queries, etc. So yeah, I just wanted to point that one out.
Yeah, thank you, Lachlan. I actually didn't even see this. I'm still digging through my GitHub review backlog. Anyone is welcome to take a look at this. I'm personally interested in this one too. It's cool. But I'm really glad that this just to note, really glad that this contributor decided to say, hey, I started on this, but I got really busy and I can't wrap it up. Happy to do whatever with it from there. We should certainly be encouraging those kinds of things in the wasmCloud community, because sometimes you start something and you just don't quite get it across the line, and that's fine. We can take what this started as and or the 90% of it and get it across the line and have that feature, and it's great. Well, if anyone is interested in picking up this PR and kind of driving it across the line, if you take a look, please just let us know as like a comment on this PR or reach out in Slack or something. That's great. But we'll get this one. I think we're at a good point in the year to kind of take a look at these and get them wrapped up, and then look forward to the Q5. Speaking of, oh my God, I keep saying that Q1 2025. Q5 is canonically the first quarter of 2025. Okay, so I wouldn't have even noticed if I didn't see Taylor laugh. Speaking of Q1, there is a discussion open now for the wasmCloud Q1 2025 roadmap. I actually looks like Masood has come in and again given us some super helpful feedback. I haven't read this message yet, so no comment yet. But this roadmap is a great place to leave comments, questions, concerns, requests for the next quarter of roadmap for wasmCloud. As a reminder, the roadmap is a place where we try to surface our kind of high level initiatives for the project, and is entirely, what we want is for it to be entirely community driven. So the features and fixes and things that we put into the product or into the project are the things that you're running into as you run wasmCloud. It's like, hey, I wish I could add this feature. I wish, this individual thing could be fixed or made smoother. That's the kind of thing we want on the roadmap. And even better if we can get them teed up as like good first issues for people to contribute to. We've had a ton of success, I think, in our community there. So folks, please feel free to leave comments, questions, or requests on this discussion. As mentioned, and probably segueing into the last bit of the community meeting, we are going to push our next wasmCloud community meeting to be wasmCloud Thursday next week, so December 26th, instead of being on Christmas Day. And then I think we will likely have it on the following Wednesday, which is actually New Year's Day. But we may decide to push that a day as well, which we'll just communicate up front in the community meeting.
Brooks,
Yeah.
just as a community member, is there a reason that maintainers cannot have a week off? I will be personally, I will be working for my other job, so I will be around, but I'm just wondering, still people have lives and need to, recover. So is it mandated that should happen? I'm just bringing it up for everybody to comment if they like to.
Taylor, I mean, I can.
No, I don't take this as a mandate. This is where we come from, Masood. I think that's a really good call out because it is never meant to be mandatory. It's just that we like making sure people like to come here and people like to talk. And so we always want to keep that opportunity available. One of the things that Brooks, you can tell me if you didn't feel this way, but I'm pretty sure at the bare minimum, me and Brooks did, but I think a lot of us wasmCloud maintainers and community members who've been here for a while, one of the best compliments we got from going through the incubating process for the CNCF was that like our community meetings were amazing. And so like people really like joining and talking. And so we just want to make sure that opportunity is always there for people. So yeah, no one should ever take it as like we're all working and you should be all working. That's not the intent. It's that we like to be there because it's just fun to be there for the community. I'm pretty sure next week's meeting, even if it's on Thursday, will probably be 10 or 15 minutes max, like if that. But it's just more providing that sync point and that opportunity. So I think that's a really good call out, Masood, and I hope no one takes it as like we're trying to grind. We're just trying to be showing people that we're there and keeping that community always going for people to come join and talk to. So don't take any pressure from it for sure, but I think that's a really good question and call out.
No, again, I will be around and I'd love to participate. And actually, maybe I demo something that is almost getting ready. I mean, the process of testing it, but I was wondering, you guys, might need a break, and that's why I was proposing from a community side that maybe, you can take it easy.
Are you suggesting, Masood, that you want to take over the wasmCloud Wednesday for next week?
Well, I can make up things. I never can do justice to what Brooks does.
Yeah, it's fine. Brooks can sleep when he's dead.
I can pre-record it and then, do a demo and then pause for like 10 seconds. Like, oh, great question in the chat.
I appreciate the concern for sure. It's definitely no. I think that it's definitely, we don't have to be on where I appreciate the concern. We do work hard, and it's appreciated that, like, we do appreciate that people see that. We definitely have a good balance. I feel like other people might have their own limits, but we're definitely on the right track. And like Brooke said, and Taylor said, it's a consistency thing rather than a mandated everyone must be online. I personally, I won't be online. I'm gonna be full of Christmas pudding, so I'll be rolling somewhere around the living room most likely.
Yeah, I think they said it best. I do love being able to say things like, we've done a wasmCloud community meeting every week, 52 weeks a year, every week for the past 4 years. That's fun. And I think we should be pretty eager to shift that around when there are holidays, or even, I would argue that today's community meeting was a pretty chill community meeting. Had demo, talked about roadmap, so I'll get to hang out for a little bit, and that's okay. All right, folks. Well, that is all that I had planned for the community meeting today, which, just quick little demos and things we've been building. Heads up that we're going to be getting a couple of releases of wasmCloud and Wash done likely before the end of the year, just to push out some of the latest features and fixes that we've been working on. And really just kind of thinking, as we go into the new year, what kind of things we can do better as a project. And the Q1 2025 roadmap is going to be a huge piece of that. So please leave your comments there, do some thinking. And other than that, I think that's it. Do folks have any questions, topics from the WebAssembly or just wasmCloud ecosystem that they wanted to talk about today? I think we're pretty much in the same, we're in the free time part of the community meeting, so anybody's welcome. Hey, Colin.
Hello. Hey, I was thinking of since I have this time, this week off from my regular job, to explore what Envoy could be used for in terms of how it already uses Gateway RPC, trying to see if that would work with WRPC. Trying to kind of integrate in like the big goal being somewhat tangential to the external provider type talk, but also just Envoy is a big deal. If we could get it to work with Envoy, so we don't have to, in HTTP providers that we are responsible for, solve every single problem that every proxy has already had to solve before. That's kind of the goal. But in case that completely doesn't work at all, and Roman said he'll help me, so I'm sure I'll be okay. But if there's anything else anybody would like me to help out with or whatever,
I mean, if Roman says he's going to help you, I think you'll be fine.
Well, you never know. It could be one of those like you can't, like one of those like I'll help you, but you really can't even. You're like can't even begin to get it, or something like that. Or it'd be like basically Roman would have to do everything. Then obviously that's not a good use of his time. So, but I don't know. So I'll be around if anybody has anything. But I might bug people. Just it's kind of a forewarning if that doesn't pan out, I'm gonna bug people for stuff. So like for stories or whatever.
I love it.
Assuming my wife doesn't come up with enough things for me to do. Whatever. Too many things.
So, yeah, Colin, so you're looking at like an implementation of WRPC transport for Envoy?
Yeah, so Envoy already has gateway RPC. Can already speak RPC. I'm hoping it's a very explicit mapping where we can map, paths or HTTP to paths or whatever, HTTP paths to RPC. Or
Yeah.
gRPC. But
Um,
that could then be used to map to WRPC. I mean, I think that would be pretty awesome. If we could do that, and then all those many things with Envoy that with Istio that I had to go through over the from whenever it came out, whenever Envoy came out until 3 years ago when I stopped doing Kubernetes. There was just so much to that, and I really would like to have that, not have to do all of that with whatever proxies we use.
yeah. I mean, I know that Roman did work on the quick implementation for there's a quick transport, so maybe that could help.
Yeah. Well, he thinks I don't know. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he was like, "Oh yeah, we could definitely do like when I talked about it at KubeCon with him."
Nice.
So
it's like only 200 lines of code in most cases. The hardest part's the framing thing, like getting the framing stuff right.
Yeah, I'd be more concerned with just like, how do I even start? Like, how do I even set up an Envoy? How would I even like set up an Envoy and then something listening for WRPC? Like I would make a component, right? And it would have some sort of, it would have, and how do I even hook it up for that component to get hit by a RPC? Kind of similar to what you did, Taylor. Some of the stuff you've been doing recently. But I would like, how do I even get started? I think that's probably where I'm gonna fall down. So
Yeah. I think Roman's going to really appreciate you taking a look here because I mean you can see in the like all the examples in the WRPC library. Those are great ways to like how he does the client and server examples for different transports. Those are great to like understand what you even need to do, right? Definitely recommend. Well, we don't have the pluggable transport bit in wasmCloud yet, so wouldn't approach it from a wasmCloud side here yet.
Yeah.
But I think he would really appreciate just like a bunch of questions there that'll feed well into the WRPC documentation. Seems like a pretty good, well, it would be a huge help to what Roman is trying to do.
Yeah. I mean, it seemed complimentary. So yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna bug Taylor. I guess that's more. I've thought about it a little more because because you got that thing working where it's, I don't know how much you want to say, but you've done work around similar things where triggering a component through WRPC, but not from just the standard, not a standard provider situation that was set up by WADAM.
Yeah, that's easy enough to do. I do know how to do that in Go and in Rust.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably what I'll need to kind of just see how you did that, and then instead of that other part you did, I'll try to stick Envoy in there, and then somehow figure out how the RPC to path mapping happens, stuff like that, if it's possible at all.
Everything's possible.
Well, yeah,
Believe
it's possible for me.
It's always the question when you're writing anything in tech is like, can I? Yes, I can. Should I? That's a better question to ask yourself.
Yeah. Well, right, yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, if I spent 5 years on it, maybe I could. It's gonna be one of those. The time horizon.
I think you'll be able to do it just fine, Colin. Just feel free to hit us up. If I'm around,
Alright.
I'll answer for sure.
Sure. All right.
All right. Guess the only other cool thing I can think of is that Go releaser added support for Rust and Zig. So that's fun.
Go release.
Yeah,
Yeah, Go Releaser. It's a wonderful tool.
Releaser.
And also, don't forget to submit for Wasm.io if you're gonna
Oh yeah,
be over
22nd.
there. 22nd. So
Yeah, I've got it. I gotta type it up. It's all up here. That's gonna.
yeah, I've got it figured out too. Brooks and I are needing to get together and
Yeah.
clickety
know.
clack on our keyboards.
I gotta do that. I know. I meant to do that today.
Anyway, yes, let us know if anyone's interested, but let us know like soon, today or tomorrow.
Oh no, I'm definitely submitting for it.
No, if you want to like submit with one of us or have an
Oh,
idea or
submit
want us
with
to
one of
review
us.
it, just like let us know that it's incoming. This is just general to community, not just you, Colin.
Yeah.
We'll make sure we'll make ourselves available for that too.
All right.
Sounds great. All right, everybody. Well, then I guess we can go ahead and stop the stream for this week. We'll see you next week for a special edition wasmCloud Thursday. And I think that's it. Thank you, everyone. Have a wasmCloud day.